If you would take time to find yourself a seat, we'll start in a timely fashion. I have about 3 minutes after 6. I want to be a good steward of time and get you in here so we can use this time to hear from the community. Is that all right? I heard an amen and I heard a yeah. And so I feel right at home when church and community comes together. That's what you get, amen and yeah. If we could, as many as possible, if you could take a seat. There are seats available. I know we're comfortable around the walls and standing, but if you could, please, if you could take a seat. Thank you so much. I'm so accustomed on Sunday morning telling people to stand up, and now I feel funny, weird, saying, will you take a seat? I think it's just fitting. Thank you so much, all of you who are here tonight. I think it's just fitting that we take a moment, and whether it's a moment of silence or reflections, I personally choose to take a moment of prayer. And so if you would just yield with me now as we do just that. Oh God, we thank you for this, another expression of your love shown towards us. God, we thank you for each one who has come out tonight. You gave us traveling grace to this appointed place, in town, some out of town, and we say thank you for that. And then, God, we ask now that you will invoke your presence in this place, that each one that is gathered here, and even those who are on their way, you will place us in a oneness, a unity, oh God, a one accord, that our thoughts will be pleasing in your sight, the things that we will say and do will be productive. God, allow us to take instruction, wholesome instruction, and then allow us to hear your still small voice as you speak to us. We know and we realize that you handle the affairs of the kingdom through individuals, and so we wait patiently to hear what you have to say through each one of us in this room. God, we thank you now. In the name of our God, we pray and we ask these things. Amen, amen. Once again, I want to invite you and welcome you here to the Union Church. It is my passion, it is my intent that over and over and over, as much as we can, because we're constantly talking about the community and hearing the voice of the community, and what better way to do that than not that we meet at City Hall or at the county building, but that we meet right in the core of the community. And so as we meet for the next few months in different places, here being one of the places. We want to always express to you that you are welcome here at the Union Church, whereby we call it the 1405. And so you can put that in your GPS that when we gather and meet, we're either going to the 1405 or somewhere nearby the 1405. So you, each one of you, can feel that you are welcome. Again, I'm not going to prolong the time, but as we move into talking more about some things, issues, we want you to understand, first and foremost, we want to hear from you. And so for that reason, Pastor McJunkins is not going to do a lot of talking, nor will the co-chairs do a lot of talking. We have a schedule that we're going to stick to that you, each one of you, may get most of the time, if not all of the time. Is that all right? And I'm going to ask now my co-chair if he will come in the person of Dr. Jerry Cruz. He's going to come and give us some comments from himself. God bless you.
Well, good evening. It's good to see all of you here. I am going to talk a bit about the intent of the Sonia Massey Commission, but specifically about our intent tonight for this listening session. But first, I'm going to turn back the clock a little bit. Three people, Sonia Massey, Earl Moore Jr., and Gregory Small Jr., needed help, and the call for help went out. Members of helping professions responded, and one of those three was severely injured, and two were killed by those who responded to the call. These incidents of racialized violence resulted in harm or death to the people who needed help. These incidents have shaken the community. The community-level trauma that this has caused has shaken Springfield and Sangamon County to its moral core and has become a collective toxic stress. So a myriad of issues have arisen that must be addressed. The issue of the relationship of law enforcement to its citizens, the issue of the organization of municipal government, the issue of the improper use of force and firearms, the issue of widespread mistrust of the helping professions, mistrust in particular of law enforcement and healthcare, the issue of mental health and public safety, and cutting across all other issues, the issue of widespread systemic racism, of inequity, of injustice and disparities of all kind. The Sonia Massey Commission has been assembled to engage you, the people of Sangamon County. The Sonia Massey Commission has been assembled to listen to you, the people of Sangamon County. This commission has been assembled to assist you in addressing the issues that I just mentioned. The purpose of this committee is to engage you and to listen to you so that we, together, can examine, analyze, and evaluate this myriad of issues of systemic racism, of mistrust, the pattern and practice of the helping professions, mental health, public safety. We do that in order to make recommendations that you can use, that the city can use, that the county can use for rapid and sustained actions that will improve relationships and lead to healing. And my great hope is that this process will result in generational change that will lead to mutual trust, the best public safety, and the optimal well-being for every citizen of Sangamon County. Now, we know we can't address every detail or everything that relates to those issues. So our purpose tonight is to listen to you. And as we do that, we want to refine this large mission. We want to prioritize our focus, and we want to better define the scope of the work of this commission and what this commission will do with you. In academic terms, it's kind of a modified Delphi process. Listen, refine, listen, refine, listen, refine, until we get there for those sustained actions that we need. So thank you for being engaged. Thank you for being here. It's time to do something. And now I'd like to welcome Rakisha Falan to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you to all of you who are joining us online. All of our commission meetings will be streamed online. So if you're not in the room, we still want to be able to hear from you. And we've provided a number of ways for you to do that. I am part of the staff and group of servants from SIU School of Medicine that's helping to staff tonight's event, but I am not the only one. There are quite a few here, and I'm going to be serving as a facilitator tonight, as someone that can help to provide some structure for the evening. So I just want to give you some context and set some expectations for how we'd like tonight to go. We are gathering before the county has fully approved the Massey Commission. That is up this week. So as you can see, it's not the full commission. They have not all been announced, and our purpose tonight is really to listen ahead of the first official meeting, to refine the charge, to make sure we have the right topics in focus. We are expecting to announce the full slate of commissioners later this week. We are doing our due diligence and making sure that it's a broad group of representative folks, so you can expect that later this week. Okay, regarding our order tonight, we hope that you had the opportunity to engage some folks at the front table. If you would like to speak and you have not signed up to speak, there's still time. They're back at the back corner, and we can get you signed up in the queue, and there's plenty of time to do that. We also want you to know that we announced that you should come ready with 3 minutes of prepared remarks, but we're feeling like we really want to hear you, so we're extending it to 5. And so we want you to know that we'd like to hear all that you have to say, but we have a couple of things to help you along your way. So if you are a speaker and you come to the mic, you'll see that there is a clock that's right in front of you. It's got a green, a yellow, and a red. When it hits yellow, you're winding down your time, and when it hits red, we'd like you to bring your remarks to the end. It's always hard to do this in a space where you're talking about pain. It's hard to cut people off when they're sharing their perspective, and we need to hear. So we want to provide these guides for you as a way to give you a gentle reminder about the time, and a gentle reminder that we also need to hear from the person after you. So our intent is to hear from as many people as possible, but we do want to remind you about that time because we'd like to hear from as many people as possible. We want to provide you with a number of ways to speak up tonight. So there's a comment card in the back. As you can see, we're starting a mural of hopes and concerns. So anytime you want to, or as you're leaving today, if you have a hope about the commission, we'd like you to document that. If you have a concern about the commission, how it's being built, how it's being structured, we want to hear about that. So you have the opportunity to go ahead and post your concerns there. And then, of course, we have our speakers queue. Just a couple of other things. We have some support staff in the room. We've got some folks that are volunteers in a number of different ways, but I want to call your attention to folks that might have a purple lanyard on. We really think it's important in this process that we be trauma-informed and thoughtful about the needs of people as we share these stories of pain. So we have Kelly Hurst is over here. We have a table right back there. They've got purple lanyards on. If you need a minute, if you need to pull someone aside, if you need to step out into the hall and you need some sort of support, we're here to support you. Okay, with that, I'm actually just going to ask our co-chairs a few questions. And because I've already heard the question in the room, I was going to say it at the end, but because I've already heard the question in the room, you are missing a co-chair. So would one of you like to speak to that?
I'll do that. I think, can you hear me? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good. So we've been operating with 3 co-chairs. Our third co-chair is Nina Harris, who has done a phenomenal job as we have ramped up and got the commission going. Her intent all along was just to be with us through that ramp-up process. And so she no longer will be a co-chair and has done her job marvelously and got us to this point. And we'll be having another co-chair or co-chairs named shortly, I think. But my thanks to Nina Harris, who has done one great job.
Okay, I'm going to ask the co-chairs just to take a few minutes, and quite frankly, you did it a little bit in your introduction, but tell us why you said yes to this appointment at this particular season. Why are you here? Why was it quick for you to say yes? Well, maybe it wasn't quick for you to say yes. You can share that too. But tell us why you're here. Pastor?
Well, actually, Rakisha, social justice has been a passion of mine. And those of you who know me know that behind the scene, for 22 years now in this community, I've been working just that, behind the scenes at the table with decision makers in an effort that the passion that for people who cannot speak for themselves, I can be that voice to speak for them. And not just now, but times past and even times in the future, it is our intent to continue to let our passion move us in the direction that we believe that this community needs to go.
Okay. Doctor?
Thank you. I'm in central administration at the SIU School of Medicine. Before that, I was the chair of family and community medicine for 16 years. And over those 16 years, and being a family physician myself, I came to understand the importance of things that were going on in the community and things that weren't going on in the community. And the issues related to mistrust in the community, and then a greater understanding of inequity and injustice became more and more a part of my thought process. When I came into central administration, I think we were fortunate enough to be engaged by SCOTR, the Springfield Coalition on Dismantling Racism, and a group called Crossroads, so that a bunch of our leaders could be trained in understanding systemic racism and becoming an institution, an anti-racist institution. I was taught well one night by Dr. Hurst, who's sitting right over there, as a matter of fact, and it was a great thing. And I'll also just say that the experience that I had as chair of the Academic Family Medicine Advocacy Committee and my trips to Washington, D.C., and getting to know particularly the staff of Senator Obama and Senator Durbin was an eye-opener and a life changer for me in this process.
Thank you. So we have asked this group of people to come in here and to lay their hopes and concerns bare. And so we're going to ask you to be just as vulnerable. What are your hopes for the Massey Commission? And what are your concerns? You'll have to own those concerns, of course, because you're the co-chairs. But I'd love to hear from both of you. What are the guardrails you're thinking about here?
Who do you want to go first, Rakisha?
Whoever's ready, whoever's hot.
I'll start this time, okay? Okay, you heard a few of mine already when I spoke, but I'm going to go right to the concern board over there right now. Now, in the NFL, there's a penalty, offside, unabated to the quarterback, right? And that's quite a word, unabated, never ending, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm reading up from my photo here, that concern. Cycle of violence and mistrust continue unabated against minorities, immigrants, and other underrepresented communities. So that hope is that we can stop that unabated. Now, I'm going to say one more thing. My wife and I were in Washington, D.C. this weekend, and we got to go on the monument tour, and for the first time, I saw the memorials to Martin Luther King Jr. and and FDR. That's the first time I'd seen those. Here was one of the quotes that was on the wall from FDR. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have little. And maybe that's not even enough, provide for those who have little. It's like the realization of generational wealth. factors that impede the realization of appropriate generational wealth might be the crowning glory or the step 6 anti-racism, Dr. Hurst, of this kind of process. Now, this is just one county, but you got to start somewhere.
That's right. Pastor, your hopes and concerns about the commission?
And likewise, looking at the concerns on the wall, many of those concerns overlap with the things I have in my mind. And if you have not looked at those concerns, please take a look that are on the wall over there. Those concerns, each one of them must be looked at through the lens of racism. And in doing so, you heard Dr. Cruz say something earlier in the intent, and that is that while we look at this through the lens of racism, coming together and listening to what you have to say and what's going on in the community. This is what drives our passion. This is what moves us. We cannot be reactive, but we must take an action. That is where the generational change will begin. It will never begin as long as we gather together, we talk about it, then we talk about it, then we talk about what we talked about, and it continued to be the same thing over and over. Just as systemic racism takes place, we too must have, for the generational change to take place, we too must systemically position ourselves and strategically position ourselves to make a change, and we do that by having a plan. And tonight, we start a plan in doing just that.
Thank you to the co-chairs. If you'd like, you can take a seat, actually just in the front row. We'd love for you to take a position of listening and empathy as people share their thoughts. As we get started here, again, we have multiple ways for you to engage with us today. And so one of them is through a tool. One of them is through a tool called Slido. And so we're going to do a little bit of live polling in the room. And it's my understanding that those who are joining online also have the ability to participate. So if you're not familiar with how to use a QR code, what you want to do is open your phone app, and you want to point it right at that QR code. And then you will have the opportunity to click on a link, and it's going to take you to our live poll. We're going to ask you a few questions and go through them in just a moment. But before we do want to give you the opportunity to react to something. Got it? And we'll put it up for a second time, but I want to give you time to get a shot of that before we go back to the PowerPoint deck. Do you need the passcode? No, I was looking at the numbers. Okay. Passcode is the one at the bottom. NH. Yep, it's going to ask for both. But the passcode is NHADM4. It will ask you for the number and then the passcode. And we will put this back up as we switch to the PowerPoint deck. I want to share with you some draft language that the commission will be considering when they gather. This is not final language, but we are starting to get to a point where we're starting to look at our mission and the topics that the commission is going to actually review. So if we could switch back to the deck, I want to share those ideas with everyone in the room before we do our live polling. Next slide, please. So the draft mission, and this is very brief and incomplete, but we'd like to hear from you on it. The mission of the Massey Commission: to engage the people of Sangamon County on issues of systemic racism and community mistrust in the pattern and practice of law enforcement and other helping professions. To engage the people of Sangamon County on issues of systemic racism and community mistrust in the pattern and practice of law enforcement and helping professions. Next slide. Here are a list of topics that we are considering at this time as we consider work groups, and we also consider the agendas of our public meetings. Law enforcement hiring and training, implicit bias and cultural competency, integrated mental health services, emergency response and crisis intervention, community education on health and safety, economic disparities and service accessibility, systemic racism and community mistrust, and public and community health. These are the topics that have already risen to the surface. There may be more, there may be modifications, and that's what we'd like to hear from you. With that, I'm gonna bring Dr. Hurst up. She's gonna co-facilitate this portion of the evening so that we can get some guidance from you.
Okay, good evening. Good evening. I just wanted to make sure that was the community I was in that says good evening to one another. So if you have up the QR code and you have this, if you didn't get the QR code, you can also go to slido.com and you can input those items in there. Thank you. Wait, we got to go back one. Can you go back? Okay, you didn't leave it right, go to the last one you were just in. So here's what we want you to do. Now that it's active, we want to know who's in the room. We've always wanted to know who's in the room. And in order to do that, so this is this poll, is it showing as active on your phones right now? Okay. NHADM4. I'm going to say that once again. The passcode is NHADM4. If you go ahead and click Start the Poll. I think we're showing the wrong thing. Give me one moment, please.
There we go. It's showing.
Thank you. So everyone else is seeing a word cloud. Are you able to? There we go. We'll give folks a few minutes to let us know who's here in the room. For most of these responses, they're either going to be open-ended, we're going to ask you to put some things in order, or we're going to ask a question for you to respond to so we know who's here. We can go to the next slide. Here's what that poll ends up looking like in the room. 56, oh, it keeps moving. I'm not going to say anything. I'll just let our poll do its work. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see that it says I have about 32, 36 people who are actively responding. I just heard from Ken Page. He said it takes time. We got a lot of people voting, so we'll give it the time. So this, you can see, so far, now we have, this is from 70 people in the room right now. This is what our makeup looks like. Let's go to the next slide, please. We'd like to find out what are the languages spoken primarily. You may choose as many languages as you speak. That's from 74 respondents, so we're getting a little bit better. It's getting a little faster. Wait one more moment. There's multiple categories on there. All right, will you go to the next polling question, please? You can go to the next one after this. So here's where you get to do some open-ended work. The question, after Rakisha shared with you all some of the things that have been lifted up, some of the topics that have come up, if that's a topic that is still really important to you, put it here. If there is something that is missing, put it here. But what should the Massey committee prioritize as their work? That's this question. I'm going to read some of them as they're coming up. Please continue to add. I'm seeing mental health, trust between community and law, removing racist police officers, mental health resources for minorities, cultural competency, police reform. Hiring of law officials, accountability in the sheriff's office, as well as hiring practices. De-escalation, reform, accountability, social justice and equity. Building trust. How to take the steps to fix the problem. Love. Improve community and law enforcement communication. Crisis intervention. There's a lot coming up that we did not name already. You'll also notice that our poll is actually just telling us about, it's starting to gather like accountability. At least 11 people have said that. So it's going to keep track for us how many times a person says that. If you see something on here and that's still something that you want, put that in the poll. The more times it's in there, the more times it will come up. Both police and mental health are coming up at least in the teens, 13 and 14 times. Mental health access, education. How about one more minute to put in your responses? I see people still typing. I'll keep reading these. Anti-racism at police departments, mental health reform, institutional racism within law enforcement, substance abuse, lowering police budgets, having police sensitive to and knowledgeable about mental health issues. Continue neighborhood policing, police reform, mental health assistance on all needed calls, lowering police budgets. All right, finish up your last comment here so we can go to our next question. Reviewing complaints on officers, standards, accountability, trauma, mental health, health education. All right, let's go to the next one, please. This is that hopes part that we just talked about, that our panelists were actually discussing. You can put them over on the wall. This is another place for you to put them. If you have a hope for this commission, what is your hope? We heard from them. This is your chance to answer the same question. What is your hope for this commission? Defunding the police, mental health crisis response, justice for Sonia Massey, true change, not just talk, see and hear people. I see defunding, centering the voices of the most impacted, transparent processes, removing Springfield as a sundown town, transparency, protecting the Black community and Sonia Massey, better relationships, bridging the gap, dismantling the good old boys, steps to take to implement change, action, improve race relations, establish mechanisms of power. I'm trying to read real fast. I bet y'all are catching way more than me. Non-paid commission, policies that stand, expelling violent, racist police. A lot of actual change, policy, process, specific actions, equity in law enforcement, hire more social workers. Can I just ask us all to do something real quick? Because we've been doing this for just a moment. And as somebody who's trying to do this in a trauma-informed way, would you please take a deep breath with me? Let it out. This is not easy work, even to see this up here. But it's truth, and it's what's coming from the room. So we're going to continue. This is how we do this work. Remember to breathe, drink water, moisturize. That's just good for you. But all of these things are going to help us sustain. All right, we're going to go to the last one about our concerns. I'm going to try to read fast. You all have lots of things to say. What concerns you the most about the Massey Commission and or its work? What concerns you the most? Coming up. So you all are seeing it, but not me? Keep writing. What are your concerns? Is it coming up now? Thank you. Lack of input I saw from the Massey family, that it won't be able to come up with plans, who's on the committee, buy-in from people, that police never reveal their hiring practices, keeping the Massey family first, our commissioners paid, lack of action, weaponized bureaucracy, making sure there's trust, lack of progress, criteria for choosing, fearing that nothing will get done, no actions will come, accountability from pastor, no members are racist, there will be, I didn't catch that, centering the right voices, not creating real change, fear of all healthcare or police, not just crisis-oriented. It's getting too hard to read these. But I thank you all for adding these things to us. I'm going to ask us to do one more thing as a part of the polling. Rakisha shared with us their list of things. I'm going to ask our poll to go to the next one. And this will actually ask you to prioritize all of the things that were on that list. So you're going to put them in an order that you want and hit submit so that what we know is what is rising to the top as most important. And you'll see the live results as people vote. Oh, it says to select 3. Thank you. We'll be sharing these polling results with you. We'll definitely communicate what has come up in the room. I also want to remind you, hopes and concerns over there on the wall. If you didn't get a chance to do it in the poll, we still have a chance to hear from you, and that's what we want to do. So I'm going to ask Rakisha to come over for our next piece.
Thank you, Dr. Hurst. Reached the portion of the evening where we get to listen to you. The Massey Commission is a citizens commission, so the most important voices are yours, not the co-chairs, not local politicians, but yours. And so we are going to go ahead and start with our lineup. We are going to just remind you that we're giving you 5 minutes, and we have some gentle reminders about the time up here at the podium. There is still time to sign up if you have not signed up, and we'd love for you to do that. I'm switching to the other mic, and I'm going to have a seat. Our first speaker that will be coming up is Thomas Davis.
Thank you very much for this community forum, and thank you for this personal opportunity to address some of these issues. Now that I know that I don't have to talk so fast, maybe this will be more coherent. But I first want to give you a little bit of background and to suggest why I might be competent in the future at the appropriate time to testify at more length about specific issues. My name is Thomas Davis. I retired after 25 years at the Attorney General's office. I began in Bloomington, however, as an assistant state's attorney and was a felony prosecutor for most of my 5 years there. During my last year, since the state's attorney and first assistant were in Rockford doing a trial of the David Hendricks axe murders of his wife and 3 kids, I was left in charge, basically, of the grand jury, which I handled on a weekly basis during my last year. I've been in Springfield since